proving that she was an agent down there. But you just take the different sides of the story. You know, come up with your own conclusion.
And what year was that she was down there?
I believe it was around 1990.
Oh, very interesting. Now, some of the other things was she had discovered a letter that Oswald had allegedly written to some Soviet assassin. When did she discover this? After the assassination?
No, what we're talking about is, it's been called the Kostin letter or the
Right.
Kostikov letter. And this is something that happened a few weeks before the assassination. This is before the assassination. And Oswald borrowed Ruth's typewriter. This is the story we get from Ruth.
Right.
Oswald borrowed Ruth's typewriter to write out some letter, and he was typing it in her house on her typewriter, and he acted kind of protective, like he was trying to hide what he was writing from her. And then supposedly he left a draft, his handwritten draft of the letter, sitting on the desk. And Ruth says she was curious, and she decided to sort of steal that letter from him, which is odd. Ruth does, she's a Quaker, and she kind of represents herself as being, very, very honest, and, not doing anything sinister, dishonest. So this is weird. She steals this letter from him and makes a copy of it, and she plans to give it to the FBI the next time they come out. So the FBI has already been out to check on Oswald at least twice, and he wasn't there, and they spoke to Ruth Paine. So Ruth Paine had a relationship with the FBI, and you can pretty much conclude that she was informing on Oswald to the FBI. I mean, what else could you say if she's stealing a letter he's writing to give to them? I think people should understand it's a very strange story. And this letter is a really key piece of evidence. So it's a letter Oswald was supposedly writing to the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., and he's mentioning in this letter about how he visited the embassy in Mexico City and talked to this particular Soviet agent there, Kostikov, who ends up being part of this Department 13 in the KGB, which is responsible for assassinations and sabotage and, stuff like that. So this letter is very provocative. It makes it look like Oswald is planning the assassination with a KGB assassination expert. And the problem is, I think almost all the researchers out there I've talked to, coming from the conspiracy side, they think this was clearly a provocation, that Oswald either never wrote this note or was told to write it because he was running some sort of operation pretending to be a communist. So, that's, and Ruth Paine is right in the, so it makes you wonder what's going on here. The Soviets actually received the letter, and their immediate reaction was, this is fake, this was some provocation. There's somebody's trying to set it up to make it look like we're connected to Oswald, so they can blame the assassination on the communists, and so that's a kind of complex intelligence operation that's going on with the assassination.
Yeah, pretty serious smoking gun to be passing through your hands here at this time in history, to say the least.
Yeah. So there's no evidence, no solid evidence that Oswald was visited the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. The FBI, there's this phone call between J. Edgar Hoover and LBJ the morning after the assassination. First call LBJ has that morning. And they're talking about whether Oswald went to Mexico City. And Hoover tells Johnson, well, the problem is that we have photos and a tape recording of the person who claimed to be Oswald, who visited the embassy and called the embassy, the Soviet embassy in Mexico City, and it's not Oswald. So something interesting is going on.
Yeah, but Ruth produced all these coins and things to indicate that he was in Mexico City.
Yeah, that he was.
And was that before or after? That was after the assassination, though.
Yeah.
After they had searched the house.
Yeah, so that's weeks after they searched the house.
Yeah.
Thorough search, police, FBI, everybody searching the house on multiple days. This is supposedly where the assassin of the president was spent the night, where the rifle was stored.
Right.
All his stuff is stored. And then somehow Ruth, and I believe she's with an FBI agent or something when they find this, but this in a drawer, in the room where their Oswalds were staying, they just open the drawer and there's a Spanish English dictionary, there's some pesos and some Mexico postcards. It is a little hard to believe that this stuff was missed in the other searches, and this is it helps shore up the story that Oswald actually went to Mexico City, because it's kind of important for them to maintain that. If you believe in the official story, that's part of the legend, is that he went to Mexico City, visited the Soviet embassy. He's making some crazy plans, and who knows? You can either say he has no real connection to them and he's trying to act like he does, or maybe it was a communist plot.
And she also discovers after the search 2 cameras that were associated with the backyard photos of him holding the rifle.
Yeah.
Let the Stephen Avery crowd get a hold of this stuff and see what they'll do with this.
That was my hope. That this movie, that we'd have a whole community of people jumping on the case and trying to figure this out. Why all these other true crime stories, they have this like active community of people obsessed with it.
Yeah, funny how some things are promoted and some things aren't. Some things get elevated and some things don't. But what do you make of that, though? She finds these cameras. That's pretty suspicious, too, as well.
Yeah, the camera thing is very suspicious, that these things pop up also after the initial search. And like the backyard photos, these are, this is about the most important piece of evidence for the public-facing case against Oswald. It's the photos of Oswald with the rifle and a pistol and 2 communist newspapers standing there, supposedly taken by Marina. Those are infamous photos. Everybody probably would recognize them. Those were found. Those were not found on the first day of the search. They were found the second day. So somehow those were overlooked. And then the camera that took those photos was not produced until later, much later. And then there was even a spy camera, a miniature spy camera. And this is a whole other convoluted story, but a Minox spy camera somehow also was found, was at the Paine house, and there's controversy over whether it was Oswald's or Michael Paine's, but either way, it was a spy camera, and it's suspicious no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, interesting. I never even considered that. It could be Michael Paine's. What about now the connection to the General Walker shooting? She was involved in that too.
So, one of the big important stories they wanted to tell to make it believable that Oswald was an assassin was that he tried to shoot this extreme right-wing general Edwin Walker in a few months before the assassination. So there was this somebody shot through this guy's window and missed him, and they never found out who did it. But after the assassination, months and months later, they pinned this on Oswald and said, he tried to kill this guy. Obviously, he's capable of killing the president. And Ruth Paine was right in the middle of finding one of the most important pieces of evidence for that, which was this, they called it the Walker Note. And a few weeks after the assassination, Ruth found a book on her bookshelf that was Marina's. This is her story. And it was just some book in Russian of, child care advice or something. And she thought, oh, maybe Marina would like to have this book back. So she passed it on to the Secret Service, who Marina was basically held in custody for a couple months after the assassination, for her own protection or whatever they said. So Ruth handed over this book, and then the Secret Service comes back to her and says, what's this note? We found this note in the book. And the note says some things, it doesn't mention Walker by name, but it says some things that, sound like Oswald was doing something dangerous and he might not come home. It's this note he supposedly wrote to Marina when he went out to try to shoot Walker. So that, along with Marina's testimony, which a lot of people are suspicious of her testimony, of whether she was coerced to say whatever the authorities wanted her to say, because they were threatening to deport her or something. This note, along with Marina's testimony, were used to prove that Oswald made this prior assassination attempt. So things like that. There's the claim that Oswald killed a police officer while he was, immediately after the assassination, while he's trying to escape or something. There's a lot of questions around that too. Most people don't believe Oswald actually did that. Most of the, conspiracy researchers. So, and the same with the Walker shooting. People don't buy it. They think this was a setup. Even if Oswald did it, it was just some staged thing. Maybe Walker was in on staging it for publicity. So there you have Ruth Paine again, right in the middle of finding some key evidence against Oswald.
Out of all your examination of all this with Ruth Paine and Michael Paine, what sticks out at you the most to sway your evaluation?
Well, it's got to be the familial CIA connections. Once you hear that, it's a little hard to swallow. The fact that Michael Paine's mother knew Alan Dulles.
Right.
Through one of her best friends was Alan Dulles' mistress, longtime mistress, and a spy named Mary Bancroft. And so Alan Dulles was invited to come stay on Nishan Island, where, Ruth and Michael Paine also vacationed with their kids. And Ruth Paine's sister was a confirmed CIA employee. She we have a declassified document